Right then, this is a quick walk around video for an absolutely fabulous Honda Civic. It's a 1.6 EX diesel. Car's covered just 52,000 miles on new with a full service history, and it's just about to go through a brand new MOT. We know this car very well because we sold it about 4 or 5 years ago to one of my best friends actually, who's just bought another Honda Civic 1.6 diesel off me, just a newer version. He always keeps his car beautifully, and this is no exception. Front of the car, lovely and clean, lights and lenses are clear and intact. No cracks, no condensation. Bonnet, very, very clean indeed. Near side, lovely and smooth in the panels. Can't see any indentations there at all. It's just got really crisp lines to the car, always had, but this one said just the way it's been kept. And it was very low mileage. I think it was just under 30,000 miles when it bought it for me, perhaps from memory, which in my case is never to be relied on, unfortunately. Offside, driver's side, again, beautifully smooth. The panels, really, really clean. I mean, there is, I always say, there's always going to be some mark somewhere on a used car, especially when it's 11 years old, but that is, in most people's eyes, very, very clean example. Coming to the back of the car, huge boot. It's been kept in beautiful condition again. There is a space saver in this car, a spare wheel rather than the inflation kit which he's kept in the car for us. Let's come into the back now. Enormous amounts of rear room. Civics, family cars, that normally means lots of wear and tear. Yeah, quite rightly, he looks like he's banished children from the back of this car because it's been kept absolutely beautifully. And on the passenger side, again, very clean and tidy. Full set of original Honda mats in the car. Passenger seat there, again, hardly any wear at all. Given on the driver's side, again, all very clean. Obviously the driver's seat, the one that's going to suffer any wear, and it's got a tiny amount to just slide in and out, but in all honesty, that is far, far better than most you'll see of this age and vintage. Inside the car now, as always, the engine's running through this section so the dash can be seen illuminated, which is a stunning interior. Sat nav, you can see working exactly as it should. Sorry, my phone's just connected, as you can see. Pop the car into reverse there, you can see rear parking camera working exactly as intended, and that complements the front and rear parking sensors, which are all checked and working. Coming down, just in beautiful condition. Finally, that's a view you get as a driver. Absolutely stunning, it really, really is. You can see engine's running, there's no warning lights on the car at all. If I pan in there for you, hopefully you can see 52,352 miles. That's an exceptional car. Finally, just to show you, owner's manual pack and lockable on that key, all here and present with the car. Right then, it's a quick road test video, and this is for a Honda Civic 1.6 EX diesel. Car's registered EY13VHD, and mileage at the start of the road test is 52,345. The reason we do these videos simply is to ensure that if anyone's online looking at any of our cars, they get to see the very car advertised actually in operation. And as always, the reason's simple. It's because we want to ensure that if there's any issues with the car, you get to know about them before you come and set off to us. Because we've been on the receiving end far too often going to see cars which have looked absolutely fine, but only to get there and find out there's an obvious fault that shows up when you drive the car. We also do it, by the way, on these very quiet country roads in this absolutely beautiful part of Gloucestershire. This actually forms part of the road test route we take our customers on, and the hope is, of course, it'll be representative of what you'd feel yourself if you go on a test drive. So, coming to the car itself, as you'll know from the walk around video, the car known very well to us. I drove it, it was 60-70 miles back from my friend's house who bought the car, or bought the new car from us. It drove absolutely perfectly. Engine starts instantly and settles to a smooth, even idle. There are no warning lights on the dashboard at all related to the engine or any other part of the car. And temperature gauge running as a third, which is exactly where it's meant to be in one of these. The engines, it's just a brilliant diesel engine, absolutely brilliant diesel engine. The whole point of a diesel is to provide you with reliable, economical motoring, and this does it absolutely perfectly. The economy can sometimes be a bit of a struggle to get decent economy figures out of cars, or even getting close to what the manufacturers say, but with the Honda it's relatively easy. They just they pretty much do what they say on the tin. In all the time he's been driving, I'll just check the trip meter a second. So over the last 3,500 miles, he averaged bang on 60 to the gallon. And given the fact that he wasn't doing long steady commutes on motorways or dual carriageways, which are the best for the economy, that's a remarkable figure. And I dropped his down to him, and same again that he's had. I was getting 68 to the gallon out of that on that kind of route. So, but around 60-ish is about right for them. But you can get more. But just a lovely engine to use as well. Smooth, refined. Only noticeably a diesel at low revs, which even Honda can't engineer out. They're cam chain driven. There's no cam belts to worry about on them either. But just a lovely unit. Engine then feeds through into the clutch and gearbox on the car, which are both absolutely spot on. Clutch bites exactly where it should do. It's nice and smooth. The gearbox, which is another brilliant Honda gearbox. Lovely kind of weight to the gear lever. Positive selection of all the gears, all the synchromesh gauges beautifully, as they always do. But it's just a lovely gearbox to use day in, day out. Honda put a lot of effort into making them feel tactile and solid, and it feels exactly like it would have done when it was new, by the way. But just an object lesson to other manufacturers on how to do these things. And then coming to the steering and the chassis, steering just really lovely on the car. It's direct, it's quick, it's accurate, it's nicely weighted. All the things that can trip up steering cars, it avoids brilliantly. It also tracks dead straight. There's no vibrations at this speed or any speed up to the legal limit. But it just works beautifully with the chassis, because it's all well and good having direct, sharp steering, but if you've got a chassis that just lollops about and isn't sort of tuned to the chassis, then the steering, it's utterly hopeless. But this is just brilliantly resolved. So it can do two things. If you just want the car to get you from A to B comfortably, it does that superbly well. Very comfortable, very well judged ride. But for those who still enjoy their driving, it's got a real vigour to the chassis. It's very keen to change direction. Doesn't matter what type of road you're on, the car and the chassis respond absolutely brilliantly. There are incidentally absolutely no rattles, clunks, anything from underneath the vehicle that shouldn't be there either. It's all in fine order indeed. I was going to give the brakes a bit of a shove, but I've got a chap reasonably close behind, so I'm not going to go too mad. I'll leave it a little bit later for this one. But the brakes are really powerful. I did try them on the way back. But what I'm looking for in particular is for any kind of pulsing or vibrations coming back through the brake pedal, and there's absolutely nothing at all, so all in very fine order. And then coming inside the car, the first things you noticed, apart from what I think is the best dash design anywhere in its class, is just how well put together these things are. It's a very solidly made car, but then you're greeted by this dash design, which I've always said in every single Civic video, you either like it or you don't. There's no kind of in between. The definition of a kind of a Marmite design. But what I like about that is the fact that design like that polarizes opinion, generally means it's of more interest than most bland things where you just don't really have a view on it at all. But the flip side of all that is it's not just for show, whether you like it or not. Ergonomically, it is brilliant, and that is what it's actually designed to do. So the centre part here is pretty much standard fare. That's the most conventional part of all of it. You've got sat nav, which works perfectly. dual zone climate control system, so you have different temperatures side to side, and air conditioning that pumps out lovely cold air, because we tried it in a nice warm workshop as well. All of the switchgear has that wonderful high quality damped feel that Honda give you. But then in front of me, here's the best part by a mile. This two-tier design is utter genius. High up on the display, on the left-hand side, you've got information you might look at more readily, or more regularly, I should say. So if you do things like, you know, if you were to change your fan speed, you've got a little LED display down here. If I press the button there, you get a much bigger display higher up on the dash, so you don't have to look down, take your eyes off the road. But the gauge that everyone should be looking at most regularly, of course, is your speed. And there it is, all by itself, white on black on the dash, high up. It's just genius, because, you know, if you're driving ahead now and looking at the road, or pedestrians or cyclists or whatever happens to be, you can see the speed out of your corner of your eye really clearly. I'm currently driving a lovely car. I've got a Lexus NX with one of these heads-up displays which kind of float in the dash, the windscreen. But this is actually much nicer to use, because it's much clearer. As good as that is, I just find this a much nicer display to sort of look at, but just so pleasing on the eye as well. Then down below you got 3 more conventional dials, your rev counter, flanked either side by your temperature and fuel gauges, and then finally got this lovely leather-bound steering wheel. The car, he always keeps his cars nicely, so it comes as no surprise to find that the plastics, the seats, everything are in really good condition for the age mileage of the car. It's, you know, anyone would be thoroughly impressed by it, no doubt. Point of the video, of course, it was brief as it may well be, it was just to show the car operating, but to feedback on any obvious issues, of which there's absolutely nothing at all. It drives perfectly.